Hi.
Hi. Can you introduce yourself, please?
Sure. My name is Doug Johnson. I'm the general manager of the Belfast Co-op.
Awesome, thank you. We're here today to talk about the vision of the future of the co-op. I was wondering if you could share a little bit about the story of your journey with this project.
Sure. So I've been the general manager since late 2015. Prior to that, I was on the board of directors for 2 years. This project and the idea of expanding the co-op has been part of the story of my employment the entire time that I've been with the co-op. We've always been thinking about what it means to expand or to renovate the store to better serve customers. Um, I would say it started in earnest in 2016 when the board and I started working with Bill Gessner, who is a nationally known cooperative consultant that has helped hundreds of co-ops expand. And so in 2016, the board and I met with Bill. We walked through the stages of what it takes to do an expansion project. He and I toured Belfast and looked at other possible options for where the co-op could be. The next 2 years were spent talking to owners, having owner forums, surveying the owners to see how people wanted to grow the co-op, and how interested they would be in a project, what kind of a project they wanted, what did they want for services. And then after that, we started doing the work, which includes feasibility studies. So finding out what our internal feasibility was, finding out what our capacity was operationally for an expansion project, finding out how much it actually costs to pull off a renovation project. And all that work has led us to where we are now, where after years of doing this work, after years of looking at options and exploring feasibility, we're finally at a place now where we have a project that I believe will meet the current and future needs of the co-op and of our community, and we can afford it. So, yeah.
So there are different steps to expansion.
There are.
What different steps are there, and where are we right now?
Sure. So when we started working with Bill, he sort of wrote the book on how co-op does an expansion project, and he broke it down into 4 different stages. So there's the first stage is assessing feasibility. So looking at the project, seeing what your internal readiness is, seeing what your capacity is. That's the first step, right? And then it goes into the design feasibility stage. And then after that, it goes into the construction stage. And then the final stage is preparing for opening the new store. So those are the 4 stages. Right now, we are still in the design feasibility stage, which can take anywhere from 2 to 4 years. And this project has taken quite a while to get to where we are now. So we're nearing the end of that stage.
And what are we adding in this renovation project that is going to help the co-op continue to meet the needs of the community?
Sure. One thing that we heard loud and clear, and we continue to hear loud and clear, is cafe seating area. That losing that because of the pandemic, it was hard operationally, and it was hard on the community. People felt a sense of loss. So that was top priority, that we want that back. The other thing that we want to continue, that we are going to continue with this project, is the Shop for Me program. Knowing that program was I don't know that we would have survived the pandemic without that program. It allowed us to offer services to members of our community that otherwise would not have access to them. So I think that was a huge piece, and I think that it's something that we can grow in the years to come to be even more of a service to the community. So those 2 things. And then, so what are we gaining on the sales floor? We're adding 33% an additional 33% retail square footage just by pushing all of our ability to use our sales floor to the wall, so getting rid of all of the offices and prep spaces and coolers and things that are on the retail sales floor. So we're gaining quite a bit of space, a third of the store. We're adding 100 linear feet of dry grocery and 100 linear feet of refrigerated grocery.
For many years, there was talk about building a new building in the parking lot.
Yeah.
Whatever happened to that idea?
I mean, that was an idea that I was in love with, and I think that all of us, when we back when we started doing feasibility studies and looking at projects, the board and I, the community, like that was the idea that everybody kind of latched onto. When we started doing the hard work of looking at what we can afford, what would make sense for us to take on for a project, it quickly became apparent that that project was never going to be feasible. So we did what is called a pro forma model, where you plug in your sources of income and your uses, your expenses of what you're spending on a project, and then you project that out 10 years. And no matter how we bent the numbers, that 10-year projection for a project of that size just never worked out. And that was a hard lesson, I think, for me. It was a hard lesson for the board at the time to, this idea that we had kind of fallen in love with, this idea that we thought was the future of the co-op, that was not reality. So we started scaling back that vision for what the co-op could be until it became something that we could afford, something that wouldn't put the co-op in danger 10 years out, yet still was able to meet all of our criteria for what we wanted from a project.
Now I'm going to ask you a few questions from the owners.
Great.
Will the bulk bins return?
Not. So in the current plan, we are expanding the bulk section, so we are going to offer more things. Will scoop bins come back? Probably not. What I have seen in other co-op renovation or expansion projects lately, most co-ops are moving more to increased gravity bins, so the pull-down handle gravity bins. So I don't know that scoop bins are ever going to come back. Scoop bins have always been sort of a cross-contamination and a sanitation issue. So if we can build an expanded bulk section with more offerings without having to bring them back, that would be my wish.
What about the parking lot?
What about the parking lot? So we can't really get more parking than we currently have without purchasing additional land. We know that parking in downtown Belfast is a challenge. It's something that the board and I have discussed with city leadership. As part of this renovation plan, we will be looking at groundskeeping. We'll be looking at, is there a better utilization of the space that we have? But as of right now, we can get more without acquiring more property.
And what about walkways to be more pedestrian friendly?
Absolutely. I mean, that was one of the, so back in 2016, 2017, we had an owner forum where we did a SWOT analysis of, strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, threats of the current co-op. And one thing that came out of that was this, the non-pedestrian friendly nature of the parking lot. That, essentially to make it to our doors, you have to cross through an active parking lot, and it's not well marked and it's not well laid out. So yeah, again, the architects that we're working with on this project are phenomenal, and they are very centered on user-friendly design. So making pedestrian friendly passageways to get folks from High Street into the store definitely have priority.
And the last question from the owners is the cafe coming back?
Very much so. We, if we do nothing else, we need to bring back a community space for people to sit and have a meal with their family or their friends. In our prepared foods department, we're planning a complete refresh of that department. New programming, new services, new equipment. I want it to be better than it has ever been. I want it to be the shining star of our co-op. So yeah, cafe's coming back. So if you are an owner and you have questions or comments, please send them to info@belfast.coop. We will try to answer them in the next session. Thank you.